I was sitting in my truck outside the Marriott courtyard on Route 9, watching my wife walk into room 214 with a man I'd never seen before. She was wearing the black dress I bought her for our 10th anniversary. The same dress she told me she was too tired to wear to dinner last Friday. That image, her laughing, touching his arm, disappearing behind that door, is something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Derek. I'm 41 years old. I work as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm outside of Hartford, Connecticut. I married my wife Lauren when we were both 28. We met at a friend's barbecue. She was the new girl in town, just transferred from a marketing agency in Boston. She had this laugh that could fill a room, the kind that made you want to be funnier just to hear it again. We dated for 2 years, got engaged on a trip to Vermont, and married the following spring. Our son Ethan came a year later, and our daughter Mia 2 years after that. Life was good. We had a 4-bedroom colonial in a quiet neighborhood, 2 decent cars, and enough money to take the kids to the Outer Banks every summer. I coached Ethan's Little League team. Lauren ran the PTA fundraiser every fall. We were that couple the one neighbor said had it all figured out. I believed it too. Every word of it. The first sign something was off came on a Wednesday evening about 5 months ago. I got home around 6, kicked off my boots, and found Lauren in the kitchen on her phone. Nothing unusual. She was always texting someone from her office or one of her girlfriends. But when I walked in, she flinched. Not a big flinch, just a small one, like someone caught in the middle of something they shouldn't be doing. She locked the screen fast and smiled at me. "Hey babe, dinner's almost ready." I didn't think much of it at the time. People flinch. Phones are private. I told myself I was being paranoid and sat down to help Mia with her homework. But then it happened again. And again. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Lauren was guarding her phone like it contained state secrets. She'd take it to the bathroom. She'd angle the screen away when I walked by. She changed her passcode, I know, because one night I tried the old one out of curiosity and it didn't work. When I mentioned it casually, she said she updates it every few months for security. That was a lie. In 12 years together, she'd never once changed her passcode. Around the same time, Lauren started going out more. She'd always had a girls' night once or twice a month with her coworker Rachel. I never minded. I'd order pizza, watch a game with the kids, and enjoy a quiet evening. But now girls' night was happening every week, sometimes twice, and Lauren started coming home later 11, midnight, once past 1 in the morning. When I asked about it, she said Rachel was going through a rough divorce and needed support. I felt guilty for even questioning it. What kind of husband gets suspicious of his wife supporting a friend? Then came the gym. Lauren had never been a gym person. In 12 years of marriage, the most exercise she did was chasing the kids around the backyard. But suddenly she signed up for a boutique fitness studio downtown. She was going 4 or 5 times a week. She bought new workout clothes, not the baggy t-shirt and shorts kind, but the tight, expensive kind. She started doing her hair and makeup before going to the gym, which made absolutely no sense to me. When I joked about it, she got defensive. I can't want to look nice for myself? Am I not allowed to take care of my body? I backed off. I always backed off. That was my problem. The thing that finally broke through my denial was a Saturday afternoon in late September. Lauren said she was meeting Rachel for brunch and shopping. She kissed me on the cheek, told the kids to behave, and left around 10. I was in the garage changing the oil on my truck when I realized I needed a specific socket wrench I'd lent to my buddy Steve. I called Lauren to ask if she could swing by Steve's place on her way home since it was on her route. She didn't pick up. I texted her. No reply for 40 minutes. When she finally called back, she sounded out of breath and flustered. "Sorry, we were in the fitting rooms. I didn't hear my phone." I said no problem and asked about Steve's place. She said she'd try but wasn't sure what time they'd be done. She hung up quickly. In the background, I heard something that didn't sound like a mall. It sounded like a restaurant, quiet music, glasses clinking. Maybe it was a restaurant. Women go to restaurants. But Lauren had specifically said shopping. It was a small thing, a tiny inconsistency, but it lodged in my brain like a splinter. That night, after the kids were in bed, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Lauren's purse while she was in the shower. I found nothing unusual: wallet, keys, lipstick, a few receipts from Target and Starbucks. But then I noticed her car's mileage. I'd filled up the gas on Thursday. She'd driven a lot more miles than a trip to the local mall and back would account for. Almost 60 extra miles. I checked Google Maps. The nearest mall was 8 miles away. Where did the other 44 miles go? I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Lauren breathe beside me, wondering if the woman I'd built my entire life with was lying to me. The thought made me physically sick. I got up around 2 in the morning, went downstairs, and sat in the dark kitchen. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe she and Rachel drove somewhere farther away. Maybe she ran errands I didn't know about. Maybe I was losing my mind. But the pieces were adding up, and no matter how hard I tried to rearrange them, they kept forming the same ugly picture. The next Monday, I left work early. I told my boss I had a dentist appointment. Instead, I drove to Lauren's office and parked across the street where I could see the parking lot. At 5:15, Lauren walked out. But she didn't walk to her car. She walked to a silver BMW parked near the back of the lot. A man was leaning against it, tall, dark hair, nice suit. He smiled when he saw her. She smiled back. They hugged. Not a quick, friendly hug. A long one. The kind where your hands linger on someone's back. Then they got into his car together and drove away. I followed them. They drove to a wine bar about 20 minutes from her office, a place I'd never heard of in a town we never went to. I parked down the street and waited. Through the front window, I could see them at a corner table. They were sitting close. He touched her hand across the table. She didn't pull away. They were there for almost 2 hours. When they came out, he walked her to her car, which was somehow already there, meaning she must have driven it over at some point while I wasn't watching, or they'd swung back to her office and I'd missed it. He kissed her. Not on the cheek. On the mouth. She kissed him back, ran her fingers through his hair, and got in her car. He stood there watching her drive away with this satisfied grin on his face. I sat in my truck for a long time after that. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't turn the key. I called my older brother Marcus. He picked up on the second ring. I told him everything. He was quiet for a while, then said something I'll never forget. "Don't do anything stupid tonight, Derek. Go home, act normal, and figure out your next move. You've got kids. Everything you do from here on out matters in court." Marcus was right, so I went home. Lauren was already there making dinner, acting like nothing happened. "Hey, you're late. Long day?" I said, "Yeah, long day." She kissed my cheek, the same lips that had been on another man's mouth an hour ago, and told me to wash up. I sat through dinner with Ethan talking about his science project and Mia showing me a drawing she'd made at school, and I smiled and nodded and felt like I was dying inside. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered evidence. I'm not going to pretend I was some kind of private investigator. I was a construction manager with a broken heart and a smartphone. But I was methodical. I noted every time Lauren said she was going somewhere and tracked the mileage when she got back. I checked our credit card statements and found charges at restaurants and stores in towns she had no reason to be in. I found a second credit card statement in her email, one I didn't know existed with charges at hotels, 2 different hotels in the past 3 months. I screenshot everything and sent it to a new email account only I had access to. I also figured out who the man was. His name was Connor Mitchell. He was a regional sales director at a pharmaceutical company, 44 years old, married, 2 kids. I found his LinkedIn, his Facebook, his Instagram. His wife's name was Diane. She was a kindergarten teacher. She looked kind. She looked like someone who had no idea what her husband was doing on Thursday evenings. The hardest part was acting normal. Every morning I woke up next to Lauren and pretended everything was fine. Every evening I sat across from her at dinner and made small talk about work and the kids and weekend plans. She'd reach for my hand sometimes, or lean against me on the couch during a movie, and I'd feel this wave of revulsion and grief so intense I thought I might throw up, but I held it together. For Ethan, for Mia, for the case I was building. I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Holloway on a Tuesday afternoon. She was sharp, direct, and exactly what I needed. I showed her everything, the screenshots, the mileage logs, the hotel charges, the photos I'd taken of Lauren getting into Connor's car. Patricia looked through it all carefully, then looked at me and said this was more than enough. She asked if I wanted to try counseling first. I said no. She nodded and started drafting the papers. I also called my parents. My mom cried. My dad, who's a retired firefighter and doesn't show emotion easily, got very quiet and then said, "Son, I'm sorry. Come over for dinner this Sunday and bring the kids. We'll figure this out together." That phone call broke me more than anything else. Hearing my dad's voice crack, knowing he was hurting because I was hurting, that was worse than watching Lauren kiss another man. The night I decided to confront her was a Friday, October 18th. I'll never forget the date. I'd arranged for the kids to sleep at my parents' house. Told Lauren I thought it would be fun for them to have a grandparent sleepover. She agreed happily, probably saw it as a free evening. After I dropped the kids off, I came home and found Lauren getting ready to go out. She was in the bedroom, putting on earrings, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. "Where are you headed?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Rachel's having a small get-together," she said without looking at me. "Just a few people from work. Shouldn't be late." I watched her spray perfume on her wrists, the same perfume she used to wear only for date nights with me. I sat down on the bed and said, "Lauren, sit down for a minute." She looked at me confused. "What's wrong?" I said, "Please sit down." Something in my voice must have told her this wasn't a casual conversation. She sat on the edge of the bed, clutching her earring. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder. I showed her the first photo, her getting into Connor's BMW. Her face went white. I showed her the credit card statements, the hotel charges, the mileage logs. With each piece of evidence, I watched the color drain further from her face until she looked like she might faint. When I was done, I put the phone down and said, "I know about Connor Mitchell. I've known for 3 weeks. I've already spoken to an attorney." The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Lauren sat there, mouth open, eyes filling with tears, shaking her head slowly like she could somehow undo what was happening. Then she started talking. Fast, desperate. "It's not what you think, Derek. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. He pursued me. I was lonely. You're always working. I felt invisible. It was stupid. I know it was stupid, but it's over. I ended it last week. Please, Derek, please don't do this. We can fix this. Think about the kids." I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. I didn't yell. When she finally ran out of words and sat there crying, I spoke calmly. "You said it didn't mean anything, but it's been going on for at least 4 months. You said he pursued you, but I watched you run your fingers through his hair when you kissed him outside that wine bar. You said you felt invisible, but I'm the one who's been invisible, Lauren. I've been right here, every single day, and you looked right through me." She started sobbing harder. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Just don't leave me. Don't take the kids away from me." I shook my head. "I'm not taking the kids away from you. You're their mother, but I am leaving, and there's nothing you can say that will change my mind." I looked around the bedroom, the family photos on the dresser, the quilt my mom made for our wedding, Mia's crayon drawing of our family taped to the mirror. "Every time I look at you," I said quietly, "I'm going to see him. Every time you say you're going somewhere, I'm going to wonder. That's not a marriage. That's a prison." She grabbed my arm. "What about forgiveness? People make mistakes. Couples survive this all the time. You owe me a chance." I stood up and looked down at her. "I owe you nothing, Lauren. I gave you 12 years of loyalty, 12 years of showing up every single day, and you threw it away for Thursday evenings at a wine bar and hotel rooms on Saturday afternoons. So no, I don't owe you a chance. You owed me honesty, and you chose to lie every single day for months." She tried to speak again, but I was already walking out. I stopped at the door. "There's one more thing. I called Connor's wife. She didn't know. She does now." Lauren let out a sound, something between a scream and a moan, and collapsed onto the bed. I walked downstairs, grabbed the overnight bag I'd packed earlier, and drove to my parents' house. The next few months were brutal. I moved into a small apartment near downtown so I could still be close to the kids' school. We worked out a custody arrangement. I got them 3 nights a week and every other weekend, plus holidays alternating. Lauren fought hard in mediation, not over the kids, but over the house. She wanted to keep it. Patricia argued that since I'd been the primary breadwinner, and Lauren's affair was well documented, the court should consider my position favorably. In the end, we sold the house and split the proceeds. Lauren moved into a townhouse on the other side of town. Telling the kids was the worst part. Ethan was 11 and understood more than I wanted him to. He didn't cry at first. He just stared at me with these wide eyes and said, "Is it because Mom was staying out late? Kids see more than we think." I told him that Mom and Dad both loved him and Mia very much, and that sometimes grown-ups make decisions that are hard to explain, but nothing was his fault. Mia was only 7. She cried and asked if she could bring her stuffed rabbit to both houses. I said, "Of course, baby. You can bring anything you want." As for Connor Mitchell, his wife Diane filed for divorce within a month of my call. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, it got ugly. Diane had been suspicious for years apparently, but never had proof. My call was the last straw. Connor tried to blame Lauren, said she was the aggressor, that she came onto him at a work event. Diane didn't buy it. She cleaned him out in court. Lauren and I don't talk much now outside of logistics about the kids. She sent me a long email about 3 months after the divorce was finalized. She said she'd been going to therapy. She said she finally understood what she'd done and why. She said the affair started because she felt like she'd lost herself in motherhood and marriage, that Connor made her feel exciting and wanted again, and that she knew none of that justified what she did. She said she was sorry. Not sorry she got caught. Genuinely sorry for the pain she caused. I read the email twice. Then I closed it and didn't reply. I don't know if I'll ever reply. Some part of me believes she's sincere. Another part of me remembers her standing in front of that mirror, putting on perfume for another man, while our daughter's drawing of our family was taped right there on the glass. And I think, how do you come back from that? How do you forgive someone who could look at that drawing every day and still walk out the door? Ethan asked me something last week that I keep turning over in my head. We were driving home from his baseball game and he was quiet for a while. Then out of nowhere he said, "Dad, do you think Mom is sorry?" I gripped the steering wheel and took a breath. "I think she is, buddy. I think she's very sorry." He nodded slowly. Then he said, "If she's sorry, why can't things go back to the way they were?" I pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. I looked at my son, this kid, who still believed the world worked in simple equations where sorry plus forgiveness equals everything is okay again. I said, "Some things, once they break, can't be put back together the same way. It doesn't mean we stop caring about each other. It just means we have to build something new." He seemed to accept that, or at least he stopped asking. I'm doing okay now. Not great, but okay. I see a therapist every other week. I started running in the mornings, clears my head better than anything else I've tried. Marcus and I grab beers on Fridays. My parents take the kids every Sunday afternoon so I can have a few hours to myself. I'm not dating. I'm not ready. Some nights I still wake up at 2 in the morning and reach for Lauren's side of the bed before I remember she's not there. Old habits die hard. People ask me sometimes, friends, family, even my therapist, whether I regret how I handled it. Whether I wish I'd tried counseling, given her a second chance, fought for the marriage the way some couples do. And honestly, I think about it. I do. 12 years is a long time. There were good years in there, great years, even. But every time I consider what forgiveness would have looked like, I keep coming back to the same image. Lauren, in that black dress, the one I bought her, walking into room 214 at the Marriott courtyard, laughing, touching his arm, not thinking about me, or Ethan, or Mia, or the life we built, not thinking about any of it. And I know my answer. Last month I was cleaning out a box of old stuff from the house. At the bottom I found our wedding album. I flipped through it slowly. There we were, 28 years old, stupid in love, grinning like we'd figured out the secret to life. There was a photo of our first dance. Lauren's head was on my chest, eyes closed, smiling like she was exactly where she belonged. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I closed the album, put it back in the box, and carried it up to the attic. Some things you don't throw away. But you don't need to look at them every day, either.